Okay, uh, good evening and good Erev Pesach. We're up to Pei Aleph, but we're exactly the shaila that we have is on Pei Amid Beis. So as I said yesterday, the shaila was if you have a toida and a tamura, they get mixed together, and one of them dies. Said Reb Chia, you have no option whatsoever. You have no option whatsoever. And it's speaking in a case where Hare Zu, where you said, this is what, this is my Taida. The Gemara now, until the end of Pei Aleph Amid Beis, is going to give 8 possible ways to go ahead and say, why not? I have a solution, right? I have a solution. Now, it's going to be a bit daunting, but don't despair because forget about Rabbi Kornfeld. Rabbi Stern is here. Okay? And here we go. We have a chart. And this chart's going to be a very, the 8 different ways, why can't I move the chart? There you go. The 8 different ways, right? There's the solution, and here's the problem with the solution, okay? Right? So we're going to first go through a few, and then we'll go to the chart. Then we'll go through the rest. We'll go through the chart, and then we'll go through the chart again, and we'll get everything, okay? So, Bes Hashem, I'm just getting you on everything's going to be geschmack. Okay, so that's the shaila again. So again, what do you have? You have a toida and a tamura mixed together. The toida, of course, needs lechem. The tamura does not need lechem. That does not need lechem. You can't have lechem. One of them dies. You don't know if it's the toida that died or the tamura that died. You have no option what to do. So the siman is now the siman is in the hay, guys. If you see the sheet of Kubetzes, hay says siman lemedim leviyim sheyesh shachin b'demahurya v'tevas the dama and is the teva the dama and the e is nimchak. Okay, let's see each one. Okay, says the Gemara. Amru lemedim lefnei Rebbe. Now this is the blog would love this. Who is Lameidim? Yud Zion and Sanhedrin, it's Levi. Okay? It's Levi. Levi is the Lameidim now. We're going to see a problem soon. So so in other words, it's Amru Lameidim Lefei Rebbe. So Rebbe said in front of Rebbe, Levi said in front of Rebbe, Velesi lechem, bring bread, velema, ihach the kaima toidahi. If the one that's alive is a toida, halachma, here's its bread. Eloi, and if it's not the toida, it's a tamura, leifik lechulin. So let it be chulin. It won't be anything. In other words, why do you say there's no option? I got an option. Bring lechem. Say if the animal that's alive is the toida, here's its lechem. If it's a tamura, then what? It goes to chulin. Amalahu. So Rebbe said to Levi, "V'chi machnisin chulin la'azara." How could you bring chulin into azara, fellas? So you have no option of bringing the lechem in. Fred Gemara. This is Levi offers another option. V'leisi behema v'lechem. So bring an animal and a lechem. V'lema ihach dekaima temurahi. If the one that was alive is a temura, meaning the taida died, right? Ha taida v'halachma. Here I have now a taida and it's lechem. Guys, I have 2 animals. One's dead. I don't know what's the temura that died or the taida that died. I'm bringing now lechem and an animal, and I'm saying if the taida died and and the temura is alive, great. Here's the taida, here's the lechem on the animal and left that I brought right now. Ihach the kaimi taidahi, and if the animal that survived is the taida, so now I have 2 taidas, halachma v'ha tahav ishlamim. So you know what? I have an animal, I have lechem. Let the lechem be on the existing taida, and this animal is a shlamim. You hear the Eitzah? Again, you have, I'm bringing now, Benji is better at sing. Can you see? You can see, right? I'm bringing an animal, lechem. That's what I'm bringing. So here's my solution. This lechem If the animal that died is a tamura, I now have a toida and it's lechem, right? If the animal the animal that died is the toida, so the existing animal is a tamura. Tamura doesn't need lechem. This lechem is going on the animal I'm bringing now. Good. The animal I'm bringing right now with the lechem. If the animal that died is the tamura and the other animal is a taida, this lechem is going to go to the other animal, the lechem and the animal, and this new animal is a shlamim. So this is the solution, right? This is the solution. I have this animal goes either way. If it's a tamura, it's a taida. If it's a taida, then it's a shlamim. Good. What's the problem? You're being mimayit the man of the achila. A toida is eaten for a day and a night. A shlam is eaten for 2 days and a night. So therefore, it's not a solution to say it's a shlamim, because you can call it a shlamim, but you're going to limit the time you could eat the shlamim. So that's not an eitzah. So you see what we're doing? A problem solution. Okay, problem solution. So we try twice. Let's do 2 more, and then we'll go back and go over. Make sure we know it. Okay. Let's do 2 more. Mishum the Kamai Bachil the Shlamim. Ama Levi LeRebbi. Now, here's the interesting part. If you told me Lemeidim is Levi, Ama Levi, right? In other words, Levi was talking to Rebbe before, correct? And now you have Levi, and you called him Lemeidim, and now you have Levi before speaking to. So how can you say Lemeidim is what is? Okay, so let's see Rashi. Rashi deals with it. 2 lines from the bottom. Levi, Hainu Nami Lemeidim. It's the same guy. Elakamaisa Amalei Yeshiva. The first one he said in the yeshiva, Sharat Talmidim, Vizu Beinoi Levein Atzmai. In other words, the Lemeidim, when he was said in front of Rebbe and the yeshiva, he was called Lemeidim. When he was with Rebbe by himself, it was Levi. That's the way Rashi answers the problem of Levi and Lemeidim. Taisvis, Amalei Levi LeRebbe, Pirish Bekuntris, Levi Hainu Lemeidin, the Rebbe Kamaisa, Amalei Yeshiva, Shar Talmidim, Bezu Beino Levein Atzmai. Yalchinam Dochak, says Taisvis, it's a gekvetch to teretz. The Besoiv Parakamid the Sanhedrin, Amina Lemeidin Lefnei Chachamim, Hainu Levi. When it says Lefnei Chachamim, that's Levi. Aval Lemeidin Lefnei Rebbe, Chacham Achahaya. So in other words, this Lemeidim, when the Gemara in Sanhedrin said Lemeidim is Levi, that's only Lemeidim Lefnei Chachamim. If it's Lemeidim Lefnei Rebbe, it's somebody else. Guys, the first shot was Lemeidim, if you look, Lemeidim Lefnei Rebbe. Says Taisvis, that's not Levi. So Memela, it's not shver when Levi talks to Rebbe now, because he never spoke to him in the first place. So that, in other words, the machlokes is who's then Lemeidim initially. Like Rashi, it's Levi. Like Taisus, it's a different guy. Like Rashi, it's Levi in the yeshiva in front of Rebbe. And the second Levi is when it's with Rebbe by himself. That's good. So he offers a third try. I'm a Levi Rebbe. V'leisi behema v'lechem. Bring a behema and lechem. V'lema. Ihach the kaima to tamurahi. If the one that is alive is a tamura, haytoida v'halachma. Here's the toida. Here's lechem. V'haik the kaimi toidahi. And if the one that's alive is a toida, halachma. Here's its lechem now. V'ha, and this animal to have a maisa de toida. It should be what a leftover toida, and you'll be mak of it without lechem. So in other words, it's not a shlamim that you'll be memayit. It's a leftover toida. It's a maisa toida, right? Like you have a maisa toida. So it took care of things. So Amalei, so said Rebbe to Levi, Kimedumani she'ein la moich b'kakadai. It seems to me you don't have a brain in your head. V'chi mafrishin tchila l'maisrais. Are you mafish beginning l'maisrais? In other words, a meiser is it happens. Something happens, you have a halacha of a meiser. But to create initially something that could be a meiser, that we don't do. Okay, so let's deal with first the lashon, the harsh way that Rebbe spoke to Levi. Guys, anytime the Gemara discusses this, you open up a shmiras halashon And on the last page, you always have the same thing. You have a tshuva from the Chavis Yair that goes through every place in Shas where one of the Tanoim or Amoraim spoke in a very, very harsh way. It's 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 not it's there all the time. It's there all the time. So the tshuva is Kuf Nun Beis. Okay. Now the teretz they give, I'm giving you the teretz. Sherebi Yoda Shalevi Adam Gadolhu. Rebbe knew that Levi was an Adam Gadol, and now he's giving this teretz that to create a Meiser Taida. Ve'ena Roy Shiyita, and it's not Roy that he should make a mistake. L'chein Amaloi She'asa Kain Mimi Utai. He must have done it because he didn't have. In other words, he's saying that you're not saying like, guys, when we say a guy doesn't have a brain in his head, what do we mean? The bista bur, right? He didn't mean that. He says it doesn't pass for someone who is an Adam Gadol to go ahead and say something like this. That since you, how can you have, you weren't thinking. That's what he's saying. In other words, it's always, so that again, the tshuva, this is for really blog purposes. The tshuva is Kufnin Beis, the Chavis Yair. He discusses all, it's on the Shmiras HaLashon, and it goes through all the places. Okay, so now we have, let's do one more, and then we'll go over it. Yosef Reb Yitzchak bar Shmuel bar Marta Kamei Rav Nachman V'Yosef v'Kamar V'Leisi behema v'Lechem, bring an animal and lechem v'Lema ihachta kamaisa tamurahi. If the one that's alive is tamura hatoid v'Lachma, so the second one that I'm bringing now is the toida and it's lechem. V'ihachta kaimi toidahi halachma. This is its lechem. V'hotahavi tamura, and this animal should be a tamura, and a tamura does not need lechem. So it's not a shlamim, it's not a toida, maisa toida, it's a tamura. And a tamura does not need lechem. So Amalei, so said Rav Nachman told Rav Yitzchak by Shmuel, Ani Mari, answer me, Rebbe. Aboyim bekatve v'kosher. The guy's going to get malchus for making a tamura. You're telling me this is a good way to go? Guys, you're not allowed to make a tamura. Tamura is chal, but it's an avera. So this guy's get your eitzah is to what? To say your answer is to go ahead and, you know what? I'll say this is a tamura. What are you going to get? You're going to slug the guy 39 times. And okay, so let's go before we get to the last four. Let's go over the original four. Okay, the Levi or Lemeidim, the first lashon was what? Bring lechem. That's it, and say the following: if the animal that's alive is the taida, here's its lechem, and if the animal alive is the tamura and the taida is dead, then the lechem is chulin. That seems to be an eitzah. What's the problem? You're being chulin ba'azara. Levi's second teretz. You go ahead, bring a lechem and an animal. If it's a tamura, then the lechem and the animal, it's a toida and it's lechem. If the first animal is a toida, because the tamura died, the lechem goes to the first animal, and the second animal that you brought is a shlamim. What's the problem with that? You're being mayit is manachila. Okay. We have a third possibility. You're going to bring an animal and its lechem. You're going to say if the animal is a tamura, this is its, the taida and a lechem. If the animal is a taida, this is its lechem, and this behemoth is going to be a taida. What's the problem? You don't separate moisres initially. If it becomes a moiser, it's one thing, but to separate moiser initially, that we don't do. We have Rabbi Yitzchak bar Shmuel bar Marta saying, bring a lechem and behemoth. If the animal was a tamura, you know by now you know the drill. Then this is a taida and this is its lechem. If the animal is the taida, then this lechem goes to that, and this behem is a tamura. Said Rav Nachman, you're going to do something to get malchus? Doesn't make any sense, guys. Are we on the same page here? We're doing good, right? This is it's pretty straightforward. Gets a little harder, but it's pretty straightforward. Good. Okay, now we have four more. Okay. Rav Ila Chalash. Rav Ila got sick. Oil legabe Abaye v'Rabbanan. Abaye and the Rabbanan came to go ahead and be mevaka chayla. What do? They speak and learning. V'yasei v'ka'amrei, and they said over the shaila Reb Chia, if you have a toida and a tamura get mixed together, one of them dies. Reb Chia said you have no option, and Reb Chia was a tana. So what do you mean you have no option? So he has no option. Let's come up with an option. Emisa l'Reb Yochanan. if it's true what Rabbi Yochanan said, and we just had this the other day, fellas, the Amar chutz lechoimes hazara kidesh, meaning, guys, we said if you shech the animal and the hoida and the lechem is outside the azara, right? Maybe even a fila based pagi, as long as it's not outside base pagi, guys. Remember machloikas. You remember base pagi. Rabbi Yochanan said as long as it's not outside base pagi, it's kodesh. Reish Lakish said as long it has to be in the azara, correct? So now we have a very good eitzah. What should you do? Bring lechem. So leisi lechem. Bring lechem, just lechem. For loisvei chutz lechaimis azara. Leave it outside the chaimis of the azara. For lema. If the one that's alive is a toida, halachma, here's its lechem. And you didn't bring chulin in the azara, guys. You didn't bring chulin in the azara, you left it outside the azara. V'iloi, and if this is a tamura, so leifik lechulin. And now you have no problem. You hold this was the initial attempt. And now again, this was the initial attempt. We said that the problem was what? Was it was chulin ba'azara. Here is very good. Here it's chutz li'azara. It's chutz li'azara. And you don't have a problem, chulin ba'azara. So you know, but you do have another problem. How many breads do you have, guys? You have 40. 4 of these breads are going to who? The kohen. What's the kohen going to do? He's going to do tenufa. Says the Gemara, mishum de'ikra arba lahenif. There's 4 you have to wave. Heichila of it. What should you do? Nifnu abroi. Go ahead and wave it outside. Lifnei Hashem ksiv. It says you have to be meinif in front of Hashem. Gavoy to do it outside, to do it inside. Kamayl chulin azara. Then you bring chulin azara. Hilkach loyevshe. Therefore, you don't have an eitzah. Guys, no good. Very good. So far, we're doing good. That was number 5. Now number 6. Mascular of Shisha Berei de Rav Idi. Im Isa l'dechizkiya, if we hold like Chizkiya, the Amar, who's of the opinion that koche arboyim mitoich shmoinim. Guys, we had a shaila. Chizkiya said, Rabbi Yochanan said he can't do it. Chizkiya said you'd bring 80, and I can be mekadesh 40 out of the 80. That was the shaila. The breira, you can do 40 out of the 80. Yes. Leisi behema, bring an animal. For Leisi shmoinim bahada, and bring 80 with that animal. So guys, you're bringing one animal with, instead of 40 breads, you're bringing 80 breads. 80 lachman, right? Now, obviously, you're going to say the 40 should, if the animal that's alive is a toida, this 40 is for that, and the animal now, 40 is for this. And if it's a tamura, then 40 mitoch 80 goes for this one now, right? You have a good eitzah. Again, this is gavaldik because we know this information. Says the Gemara, Kitchu aboy mitoch shmainim, leisi behema v'leisi shmainim hada. Bring an animal and 80 breads. V'lema ihach dekaima toidahi. If this one that's alive is a toida, then what? Hanami tahavi toida v'hashmainim. Right. You'll have 80. The travayu of both. You have 80 of both, guys. If the animal that's alive is a toida, and the animal I'm bringing now is a toida, and I have 80 breads, 40 for this one and 40 for that one, that's great. Now, ihach the kaimi tamurahi, however, if the animal that's alive is a tamura, and I only need 40 breads, right? Ha toida, this animal that I'm bringing now is a toida, v'ho lachma, right? And it's his lechem, v'lekatshul hu abayim mitoch shmainim, and you mekadesh 40 mitoch shmainim. Now, you have a suffix, fellas, now, of 40 of these breads, whether they're kodesh or not. If it's a toida, it's not. It is kodesh. If it's not a toida, if it's a tamur, it's not. Says the Gemara, why isn't this a ganetza? Mishum de koma mayit ba'achila de arboyim. You can be mayit mechila arboyim. There's a lot of different gears. There's a gears here of 4. There's a lot of different gears over here. I'm going to go with the most pashit. The most pashit is, fellas, if you're going to go ahead, you should be able to bal shir. Guys, look at me. Guys, look at me. This bread that you don't know for sure is going to go to the owner, the bailam, right? Yes? 4 is going to go to the kohen. The baal is going to have to eat this in a day and a night. Why? Because it could be kodesh. It could be not. It could be yes. There's no way he's going to do that. He's not going to be able to eat it. And you come to Baltashkas. And therefore it's not an Eitzah. Therefore it's not an Eitzah. That's the answer that the Mefarish gives. Look at the first line of the Mefarish, guys. The first line of my, the upper Rashi. First line. Inyan, first wide line. Inyan Acher, Mimayit Ba'achila Demem. You're going to be Mimayit the Chila 40 of them. Dilma loy kachi klal. Maybe they're not kodesh at all. Again, if the first animal is alive is a toida, is a tamura, then it's not kodesh at all. 40 of these are not kodesh. Let's call the idach. The idach loy havi toida because the other one's not a toida. V'chi mitoisrei lemachar. You're gonna leave it over the next day. Sarf lehu v'ava mishum bal tashkis kach shamati. That's what I heard. By the way, fellas. This is a source. This is a source that the Baltashkas deraisa by food. The din of Baltashkas is by trees. When you siege a city, you're not allowed to cut down fruit-bearing trees. That's the din of Baltashkas. You heard your whole life, the children of Bayafra. This is going to date me. If you don't finish your supper, the children of Bayafra are starving. Baltashkas, right? Baltashkas. So you see, this is a source that Baltashkas deraisa, guys. Okay, so we have one more. Says the Gemara. We have one more. Amal Ravashi Rav Kahana. Imisal Rabbi Yochanan, the Amar Hifrish Chatos Meuberes. If you go ahead and you mafresh a chatas that is pregnant, V'yolda, and it gives birth. Now you're going to tell me Vlad Chatas dies, right? Guys, you can tell me Vlad Chatas dies. That's only if he gets pregnant after it was a Chatas. If you magdish it when it's pregnant, not. V'yolda rotza ba mischaper, rotza bevada mischaper. You can use either one, right? You can go ahead and you could use either one. Okay, this is in Tumura, in Tumura Chafei. So now, Lacy behema muberes. Bring a pregnant animal. V'yamtim la. Wait at shetela till gives birth. Now you have two chatois, right? For Lacy shmoi. Now, in other words, we're going to take the din of chatos and apply it what to toida. I really should give you I should give you the Gemara outside, guys. Let me give you the Gemara outside. If you hold you can be magdish both animals, it's not automatically kodesh when it's pregnant. If it's automatically it's pregnant, it's kodesh machmas tamama. If you're telling me that this is a separate korban, it means you can be magdish it. Because Rabbi Yochanan would hold uba lav yerech imai, that a fetus is not considered a piece of the mother. Okay? Taking that concept and applying it to Taida, I would have a pregnant Taida, and now it gives birth, and I have two separate animals. But this is predicated upon saying that uba lav yerech imai, and you can be magdish both. It's predicated upon that. If it's not about uba yerech imai, then why could it be another animal? Because Rabbi Yochanan is of the opinion, as we saw the other day, that shvach of kodesh is kodesh. That you can use the animal because it's considered like the mother. But you won't, okay? So let's see inside. Let's with that concept, let's see. So says Rav Ashi in the name of Kahana, if Rabbi Yochanan is true regarding a chatas muberes, v'yolda ratza b'mischaper, ratza b'vladis mischaper, lacy behema muberes, bring a pregnant animal, v'yamtim lo achetele, wait till it gives birth, v'lacy shmoinim bahadov, bring 80 breads with it, v'lema, ihach the kaimet tamurihi ha uvlada toida, both it and its vlad is a toida, v'hashmoinim the travayu, and now you have 80 for two toidas, one the mother, two the child. V'yahach the kaimi toidahi, and if the one that's alive is a toida, hanami toida, then this one's a toida. He v'hashmainim the travayahu, v'hai lahavi moisa the toida. Outside. Again, the dead animal. Okay, we don't know. I'm bringing a child, a mother, and 80. I'm bringing a mother, a child, and 80. If this animal is a tamura, I got two toidas over here with 80 chalas. I'm good. If this is what is a toida, 40 of these is going to go to this one. This 40 of these will go to the mother, and the child will be meiser. You said you're not allowed to be mafish the toida. That's if you take a separate animal's mafish it, but not if what is part of the mother. So l'chari you have an eitzah. L'chari you have an eitzah. Okay. Now this is predicated upon that you can be magdish the child separately. If lav might says the Gemara, Amalei. So Rav Kahana said to Rav Ashi, Man leimalon, who's to say the Amar Rabbi Yochanan im shayro meshuyar, that if it's meaning that it's kodesh separately, it's not kodesh machlos the mother. Dilma im shayro ain't meshuyar. Maybe it's not. Maybe it is kodesh machlos the mother. V'hainu time the Rabbi Yochanan that you're able to bring it. The Amar Adam mischape b'shvach hekdesh. But regarding toida, you can't make it into a toida. If it's part of the animal, you can't make it into a toida. It's a vlat toida. You can't make it. So that's number 7. Ravina ikloi the Muharya. He came to the town of Muharya. Amalei Rav Dimi Bereid Rav Huda mid Muharya l'Ravina. V'leisi behema v'lema. Harei olai. It's upon me to bring, right? He's going to harei olai, and he brings an animal. V'leisi behema achrit, and he brings a second animal. V'leisi shmoina b'hada, and he brings 80. V'lema. Ihach the kaimet tamurihi. Hani tati toidis. These are 2 toidis. V'shmoinim b'shavayun, and these are 80. V'ihach the kaimi toidahi, and therefore I don't need 80. V'hoda ama alai, nami lahavi toida, v'shmoinim shavayu. So now you have l'chayra, you have 40 out of the 80 on this one. V'idach tahavi lach rayas, and the other one should be vach rayas. Amalei atoyra ama toiva shalaisida mishatid lois shalim. Better to go ahead than not to swear than to make a neder and not make a neder. If you had diamond lekim a neder betchila, you tell me harei alai just to make a neder in the first place. That doesn't seem to work. So here, let's go through the latter 4. We have the first 2. Let's go to the latter 4. Abai v'Rava, they say if like Rabbi Yochanan is correct that you can bring lechem outside the azara, so put it outside the azara, chutz the azara. You won't have, and then if it's a tamura, if it's tamura, then this goes, and the animal that's alive is a tamura, then this is going to be goes to chulin. If the animal that's alive is a taida, then this should be its lechem, and you didn't bring it in the azara. The Gemara says, what's the problem? You need to wave 4 of the kahanim. So therefore, you're going to bring chulin in the azara to be woven. Rav Shisha Breda Avidi, he came up with 80 lechem plus an animal. Right? What's the solution? If it's a tamura that's alive, then what? Then 40 mitach 80 is for the animal you brought, and the other 40, right? The other 40, okay, the other 40 will be, you could be magdish 40 mitach 80, so they won't be kodesh. If the first animal was a toida, then all 80 go to that animal. So it's a suffix. So what's the problem? The extra 4 no one will eat. Okay, I gave a different shot this time. He says the extra 4 no one's going to eat because you don't know. I gave the shot of Bal Tashkos on the 40. Rav Ashi, he says you can bring a pregnant Rav Ashi says you bring a pregnant toida and 80 cheni, and if it's a tmura, then the 3 animals, a toida and a baby. If its animal was a tmura, this is a toida, and the 80 goes on these 2, 40, and it's meiser. If the first animal was excuse me, if the first one was a toida 40 for that, the second one that's a live animal, the second one was a toida 80, and this is meiser. And if it's a tamura, then the 80 should go on these 2 because there's no toida, there's no number 1 toida. They'll have the last pshat. I didn't write the last pshat down. The last pshat is it should be achrayas, and you should make a neder. Okay. How are we doing? We're good? Nice, guys. Good. Okay. Says the Mishnah. Ha'omer harei olai toida. A person, now, hakdama. Fellas, animals should be brought from chulin. Chulin, a choiv in particular, has to be from chulin, not ma'aser sheni money. You may say, listen, I'll kill two birds with one stone. I got to use the. I have a lot of crops. I spent a lot of money. I was paid. I got a lot of money. I'm going to go to Yerushalayim. I'm going to go ahead and have to buy food. I have to buy animals. You know what? I'll go ahead and use the money to buy kamanis. And we don't do that because there's a shaila whether ma'aser sheni might be mom and gavaya, guys. If it's mom and gavaya, you can't use it, right? Because it's only used. Hashem gives you a right to eat it, but not to go ahead and right? So now you said the following: you said upon me it's a taida. That's all you said. You didn't say anything about the lechem. Yavi hi v'lachem menachulin. Even though you didn't say lechem, but pashtus, you can't bring a taida without lechem. And just like you bring from chulin is the optimum thing to do. So the chulin also is the lechem also comes from what? Okay. If he says taida alai menachulin, the lachma min meiser, now he's saying, right? He says, Toida alai min achulin, v'lachma min meiser. My toida, I want to come from chulin, and my lechem comes from meiser. Yavi hi v'lachma min achulin. Then the lechem, we do away with what he said, the meiser from the lechem, and it's nigrar, it's pulled, eitzel the toida, that you should bring it from chulin. Guys, you hear? Because really, fellas, when you say it should be from Maisa, Kol Shekain, you could use Chulin. In other words, the Gemara is going to say, you mean you have to bring Meiser, or you could even bring Meiser? Fellas, you hear the Kanech? When you say that, in other words, you say Meiser as opposed to Chulin, no. It means you even can bring Meiser, even though, of course, you can bring Chulin. So over here, we're going to say, he said Meiser, but I don't care. Because why? Because it should be chulin, and he said by the toida, the animal itself should be chulin. So memela the lechem will be chulin. Yabi hi v'lach min chulin. Toida min meiser, which is you shouldn't do. V'lach min chulin, which you should do. Yavi hi v'lach min meiser. So the lechem gets schlepped to the toida. And you can even bring it from Meiser. You can even bring it from Meiser. That's what you can do. Yeah. 1 second. Let me read it again. Toida min Meiser v'lachem min chulin yavi. You read it that way, guys. Toida min meiser, v'lachem min chulin yavi. In other words, you can even bring the toida from meiser and the lechem from chulin. He v'lachma min meiser, the toida from meiser and the lechem from meiser yavi. You could bring it from chulin also, but you could bring it from meiser. However, v'lo yavi michite meiser sheni. You should not bring chitim of meiser sheni. We'll get to it tomorrow. Elmi mois meiser sheni. You should buy the lechem from money at Meiser Sheni. In other words, don't go ahead and use chitim that you have of Meiser Sheni. Rather, take money and buy silas and buy. Okay. Rav Huna is going to say a din, and we're going to get into an application from a Mishnah. Rav Huna. Ha'omer, harei alai lachmei toida. The guy says it's upon me to bring lachmei toida. In other words, guys, what didn't he say? He didn't say I'm bringing an animal. He said I'm bringing lachmei toida. I'm bringing lechem of toida. Maybe toida v'lachma. He doesn't. He brings the toida with its lechem. My timer. Made the yoda high gavra. The lechem b'lei toida le'akiv. This guy knows you cannot bring a toida, a lechem without a toida. He knows that. So when he said lachmei toida, he didn't mean as opposed to the animal and just the lechem, because he knows that doesn't exist. Excuse the pun, there's no such animal. Right? Says the Gemara, "V'hai toida v'lachma ka'amar." Really, what's he saying? He's saying, when he said, I'm going to bring lachmei toida, he's saying, I want to bring a toida with its lechem. V'hod de ka'amar lachmei toida, just lachmei toida. Seif milsa nakat. It's if he's saying, in other words, seif milsa. He said, I want to, guys, we'll view it as if he said, I want to bring a toida with its lechem. By saying the lechem, he said second base, Mechlal is first base. You know first base was there already. If you said second base, that first base is included. If he said lechem, it's included the toida. That's Rav Huna's din. Again, says Rav Huna, if a person says it's upon me to bring lachmei toida, he brings a toida with lechem. And now we're going to ask him from a Mishnah. Good? We're going to ask him from a Mishnah. Tanan. Toida min amaisa, v'lachma min achulin, yavi. Kimoshinadar. If he says, I'm bringing a toida from Maisa, which he shouldn't say, but he did, and lechem min achulin, which he should say, and he did, yavi, kimoshinadar, bring it like what? Like he said. Now, fellas, if you go after the seif, then the toida should also be from chulin, right? Guys, he said toida from Maisa, lachma from chulin, and you're telling me that you go after the seif, right? Says the Gemara, Vamai, why do you bring the animal from what? From Meiser? Kivin da malach min achulin, yavi hi v'lach min achulin. You should go ahead and bring it, and it's lechem from chulin. Again, according to Rav Huna, the lechem plays a big role. It defines things, right? So you said lechem, toida, you bring a toida. So if you said lechem in chulin, you should bring a toida from chulin, not from Meiser. Says the Gemara, shiny hasam. The kivin da toida min a Meiser, since he said toida from Maisa, which he shouldn't have said. And fellas, now he said chulin. So fellas, this is a little outside. Let's say Benji says, I want to bring a toida. Let's say, and I say, listen, you know what? I'm going to bring lechem for Benji's toida. I could do that. I can be a nice guy. Good? I can be a nice guy. I can bring it for Benji's toida. So we're going to view the same thing over here. A guy says toida in a Maisa, right? And Pashtas, therefore, when he says lechem and achulin, I'm going to view the lechem and achulin that I'm bringing for my, and I'm bringing it for like I'm like a fremda, like a strange guy. Nasir will view it, says the Gemara, Kaimer harei alei lechem lift the taidasa shel pliny. It's upon me, like I said, I'm upon me to go ahead and to take care of Benji's lechem. So too, when he said lechem min achulin, it's like saying it's upon me to go ahead and take care of my taida. And therefore, we don't go after the lechem. Fred the Gemara, ihachi. If that's the case, Reisha diktani, a Mishnah that said, in other words, you want a pata. Reisha diktani, toida min achulin, v'lechem min amaiser. Yes? Yavihi v'lachma min achulin. Hachanami nasa koima harei alai toida lifta lachma shel plini. Why don't you go ahead and say, over here, when this guy said from Meiser, guys, this guy said from Meiser, so why don't we say over here, when he said, I'm bringing a toida from chulin, then he said lechem in a meiser, let's view it as what? He wants to pata the lechem shel pliny by saying chulin. And in other words, guys, look at me. Guys, look at me. Toida min a chulin, lechem in a meiser. What's the din? This becomes chulin. Now, if you're telling me, toidim in a maisa, lechem in a chulin, right? He wants a pat to him, and it stays that way. Why don't we say the same thing over here? When he said maisa chulin, why do we say that? Why do you say this automatically chulin meiser? Why does this automatically become chulin? Why does it? It should stay meiser. Why? Because we view it that this person wanted a pat to him by saying chulin, and the answer is lechem can pater a carbon can't pater lechem. You're going in the other direction. Says the Gemara inside. Ihachi, one more time. If Ihachi, you're telling me that we're going to view it when he said lachmei, when he said toidim mina maisa, the lechem mina chulin, and they wanted to pater him. Reisha ditani toidim mina chulin, v'lach mina maisa, yavi hi v'lach mina chulin. Hachanami nasa koyme. Why don't we say harei alei toida lift the lachma shel pliny, that the toida is coming to pater pliny, and he should bring it from maisa, not chulin. Hachi hashta bishleim lechem lift the toida. Your lechem to pater toida, saying the lechem's from chulin to pater the toida from maisa. Asi toida lemifta lechem, but toida that from maisa to pater lechem from chulin, that we lemifta lechem that we don't say. That we don't say. Tashma. On Rabbi Huna. Again, Rabbi Huna said, you say lechem alone, you have to bring a taida. Ha'ima harei alei taida b'loi lechem. Person says, it's upon me to bring a taida without lechem. V'zevach, and a blood carbon, b'loi nesachim. Right? Now, a toida is also a blood carbon, but a zevach min shlamim without nesachim. Koifin you force him, or maybe toida v'lachma zevach and nesachim. You force him. He doesn't get away with it. You force him to bring force him to bring you force him to bring the lechem, and you force him to bring the nesachim. Timer the Omar, the reason you forced him is because he said, I'm not going to. Harelai Taida, beli. Guys, it's upon me to bring a Taida without. Avaloy am a Taida, loy. In other words, he said it's upon me to bring a Taida without lechem. Fellas, he said that he verbalized that. What happens if he didn't say Taida? He just says it's upon me to bring lechem. Then we wouldn't force the issue. Kashan Rafuna. One more time, look at me. It's always in the hands, guys. Right? He says, upon me to bring a taida without lechem, we force him. The time reason, because he said, I'm bringing a taida. What happens if he didn't bring a taida? He just said lechem. He'll just bring lechem. Kashan of Huna. Say, Frey the Gemara. Loi. Hu adin afagav lo yam a taida. Even if he didn't say taida, he's going to bring a taida. Why? Because he said lechem. And everyone knows you can't bring lechem without a taida without lechem. V'aydi de kaboy lechem without taida. V'aydi de kaboy lemisnei zevach b'lei nesachim. The loy masti lei nesachim b'lei zevach. You can't bring it. Tananami taida. In other words, it gets schlepped along. In other words, if a person says, I'm going to upon me to bring the sachim, he doesn't bring a carbon. Right? In other words, Memela, since you had to say that, and the person says a carbon in the sachim, you've said a taida without lechem. But who adin, if you would just say lechem, you would have to bring the taida as well. That's the way of. Okay. Fred the Gemara Amai, Neder a Pischa Imay. Why do they have to bring the carbon and oil? L'chayra, you have a neder in a Pesach. Guys, we in Masech Nedarim. You can be Mata Neder. What's your Pesach? I said what? I said I'm not bringing the lechem. I'm not bringing the sachim. So Toiche de Dibur, I'm showing you that what? That I don't want to bring the carbon. Because everyone knows there's no carbon without lechem, there's no carbon without nesachim. So by saying that, what are you doing? For all intents and purposes, I'm breaking my neder, my harei alai. I'm breaking my harei alai. So why do you say you forced the guy? L'chayra, he took off his neder. Says Machizkiya, Hamani, who's the Tana of this Brisa, is Beishamehi. Damar, toughest lesson Rishon. In other words, once he said, I'm bringing a taida, we do away with the bli lechem. We do away with the bli lechem. Once he said, I'm bringing a zevach, we do away with the bli nisachim. Because toifus lashon rishon, you toifus lashon rishon. Did nan? Having nazir min agrigris. A person says, I'm a nazir from dried figs. Umin advela, from dates. Chayra, nazir from grapes. So what do you mean you're a nazir from these fruits? That's not a nazir. Beishami yomim nazir, Beishilo ain't a nazir. Why does Beishami say he's a nazir? Because he taifis lashon rishon. As soon as he said nazir, regardless he said grapes in the vela, and Beishilo says he's not. So l'chayra over here where he said taida beli taida beli lechem and zevach beli nesachim taifis lashon rishon. Says Rabbi Yochanan. Rabbi Yochanan, I feel a tame Beis Hillel. You can't even say who's going to Beis Hillel. But Omer, ilu yisi yodeya. If I would have known, she'ein noidrin kach, lo yisi noide kach. Had I known you can't make such a neder, I wouldn't have made a neder like that. El kach, I would have made this neder. In other words, had I known that you couldn't bring lechem, I wouldn't have made that. I would have made a neder to bring with lechem. So what does kaifin mean then? Why are you forcing? If the guy is openly verbalizing, he's saying that what? I'm okay. The kaboy hodebe, because now he wants to change his mind. Oh, you want to change your mind? Then we'll force you. But it can even be according to Beis Hillel. So we'll touch up. Had I known that you could not bring a toida without lechem, I never would have said that. Of course, I said what's kaifin. Now he changes his mind. Tashma. Hoime harei alai toida beloy lechem. It's upon me to bring a toida without lechem. V'zevach beloy nesachim. And to bring a zevach without nesachim. The amru loi, they say to him, hava toida v'lachma v'zevach and nesachim. V'oimer, they tell him, you got to bring the whole kit and caboodle. V'oimer, ilu yisi yadeya, he says to them, had I known, shekain, that I have to bring, accompanying my toida, I'd have to bring lechem accompanying my zevach. I have to bring the sachim. Lo yisi neider. So he's saying, guys, I don't want the neder. This is going to be very hard to come to Rabbi Yochanan. In other words, you can't touch up that what? You're going to touch up and say that what? Oh, had I known, I wouldn't have made such a neder. He's saying, had I known, I wouldn't have made the neder, meaning I don't want to bring it in the first place. So it comes out good according to Chizki that you typhus lashon rishon, that kaif and say. It does not come out according to Rabbi Yochanan, who says it's even Beis Shammai, Beis Hillel, because Beis Hillel says the predicated on touching up his words. Here his words are verbatim saying, guess what? Had I known, I got to bring the lechem, I got to bring the slavah, I never would have done it. Okay, let's see the Gemara. Kaif and say, v'oimaloi, shama v'shamata. Bishlei melechizkiya nichalei. It's very good that we force him. Why? Because we're typhus lashon rishon, and he's a good neder. Elul Rabbi Yochanan kasha, because you can't say it's according to Beis Hillel, because there's no way you could touch up his words that had I known, I would still make such a neder. Amalach Rabbi Yochanan havadai beishamai he. That's vadai beishamai. What's the lesson? Shama v'shamata. My shama v'shamata. Amar Baya shama havatoida v'shamata havalachma. Okay. Rav Amar shama habatoida v'lachma v'shamata shleitei rugel lasleis kain. That you shouldn't be rugel to go ahead what and to make a neder to bring it without lechem, right? He v'lachma min amaisa. You said you're going to bring the toida and the lechem and maisa yavi. You bring it from maisa. Fred Gemara yavi like sagi delay maisi. As I said, guys, it's pashit. You can bring chulin, right? What do you mean? You have to bring maisa. So if Nachman of Chisda, I mean ratza mevi, ratza mevi, like ratza lo yavi, right? If you want to, you can bring what from chulin. If you don't want it, you can bring maisa, and if you don't, you can bring chulin. Okay, that's a good place to stop.